Flava TV, and you're on the Start to Finish show. I'm your host for this week. My name is Aaron Machano, and I would really like to introduce an amazing man. His name is Mr. Lombe Lombe, and he's the CEO of 55 Pixel, a production company that's doing some amazing things in the Copper Belt. Mr. Lombe, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, really excited about today for many reasons. We go a little bit way back. Short story, I think, for everyone to know. You helped me launch in Zambia. So this is a really exciting time to have you here because you've been on that journey. But more importantly, I've always wondered, a lot of people maybe see me, see our videos, our events, but they never really knew who was there at the beginning. So I thought now maybe it's time to turn the camera around and see who's behind the production and hear about the great work you've done. So I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, good, good. So let's get straight into it. So tell us maybe a bit more about 55 Pixel. Why did you come up with that name? I hear of Pixel, for example, from Apple, Steve Jobs. I'm a big fan. But how did you come up with that brand?
Okay, so 55 is more of one hand has got 5 and the other has 5. So basically, if you're doing something, it's not all about us, but it's teamwork. So there's always that 5. So 55 is basic. 55 basically means teamwork. And the pixel, definitely, that's where video and photos. So basically, that's where 55 Pixel comes from.
Okay. Now, that's a really interesting thing. I never thought about that. So it's more like the handshake, the teamwork, connecting. Yes. Okay, yeah. Not the high five, because, you know, I like high fives.
even that, because at the end, there's a part that we're doing, and there's also a part that's coming from probably maybe people that are working with, and just basically the works that we've done. So there's that teamwork. And it's more like 50-50 because we believe in it's just not all about us to do something. Yeah, so life is basically meant to just have that teamwork.
That makes sense. So you talked about what the work you've done. So how was it when you actually got started? I know for maybe a novice like me, I look at big cameras. I think you guys are one of the coolest people on the planet, to be honest, but I don't know much about the industry. So how easy or hard was it to start your business, and what actually got you into looking at the visual side of the business?
Okay, so when it comes to visual, it's basically something that I've always had an interest, probably going back to 10, 11 years old. So yeah, I would visualize and just try to basically do that. But I think once got a camera back in 2010, then 2011-ish, it was stolen when I went to Congo. And well, it has not been easy. It's not easy to get gear because gear is pretty expensive. A lot of people don't know, especially if you're having like cinema cameras and things like that. So, but otherwise, it wasn't easy. But I think having a heart to get something, having perseverance, and also just having that fighting spirit in order to get like gear. Yeah, and just that focus to get into the goal, probably, I think that's something that has really helped. Yeah.
Okay. So you said 2010, that's almost 12 years ago now. So what would you say were the hard parts of getting started? I know you mentioned maybe it's capital to get into the industry, but some people I see around with a basic camera or, you know, shooting around and doing things like that. So where do you think, you know, were the hard parts to get you started or not?
I think capital is one of them, but something that I believe in is if you have a good network, if you know people, the more people you know, and you build a good reputation, it can basically be able to get you things. Because I remember the camera that I had, I never paid any amount then, but I had a friend who had this brand new camera, and I told him, look, let me have this camera, let me work for it. This is how I can do my payments. And he was like, okay, cool, let's do that. And I just made sure I followed up my word. So sometimes capital could be your honesty. It's a big asset to have. Yeah. So
where do you think you get your inspiration from? Because that's, you know, some people grow up in families, and I know we have a history. We've talked about this where maybe, particularly in the Zambian context, parents encourage us to be lawyers, doctors, accountants, and here's you, 2010, wanting a camera from a friend. I mean, what sort of conversations were you having with your family, or were there people very supportive? What was that journey like at the beginning?
It wasn't easy because always when you talk about entrepreneurship, parents always want you to be a doctor. They want you to be, You know, they always want you to have a job. So, but then I think it's that drive, wanting to get something, being a go-getter. So it was that. It was not easy, but with time, as time went by, they just basically had to understand that this is what he really wants to do. And when I started doing that, I think I could do a few things that they would see them benefiting from it in a small way from then, and then, yeah, they started trying to, you know, just get to be on board and so to support, yeah.
You did share a story about that with your dad. So what did your family want you to be before, I guess, you picked up the camera?
Well, I think back then I really loved computers, technology. So I really wanted to be able to like make chips, processors and all those. But then I love Zambia so much, but then I could be told if you want to learn this, you have to go to maybe America or one of these. And I was like, and then they won't allow you to come back. So based on those, I think my parents could try and push me and probably even give me opportunities like, oh, you can go to school and stuff. But I always wanted to do business, work with people, you know. Yeah, so basically that's what I basically really wanted so much. Yeah.
And you won the battle, yeah. So what sort of things are you working on now? What have been the results in the last 12 years? Are there any maybe projects, major ones you would like to mention, if you don't mind, on how people can look at your work and what you've been able to accomplish?
Yeah, I think in the past 12 years, there's a whole lot that I've been able to do. Some solo projects, but most of them, I think it's vital and it's really good to work with other people. Yeah. It's really fun. I think it's great, definitely being part of, say, the tribe. Apart from that, I think I've worked, there's one project I did that kind of got attention, like with some American filmmakers from Hollywood. So that was about 2021. They flew in, and then we had to basically start working on that project. We're still working on it, yeah, but then it was fun, and basically they just came like, okay, it's like they did a lot of research about me, so they say, you're going to be our cinematographer. So it was really fun, and got to learn a lot and just see sort of another dimension to the whole project. But otherwise, there's a whole lot that we've done, like locally with a lot of creatives around. Yeah, so it's really been amazing. And the other part is we keep learning and just wanting that heart to really improve and just be better. Yeah.
So what would you say are like some of the lessons, life lessons you've learned that maybe working for your business or being a cinematographer, photographer has taught you that maybe you can translate to the audience?
Saving. I think one thing I've learned is about saving. The industry that we're in is all about saving. You need to identify the problems and be able to like solve the problems for either it be a company, an individual, events. Yeah, so it's basically saving. And also, you don't have to grow big-headed to think, since I've been in this industry for a long time, then I know it or no. Yeah. At times, you may find you're doing a project, and you find that someone doesn't touch the camera, has no interest, but then they'll tell you, they'll show you an angle that's very interesting, and you're able to do something like, oh, this is good. So I think creativity is all about just being humble and being open-minded to keep learning. Yeah, it's basically that. So it's just serving. You need to serve out there to the people, and basically it's just not all about it's me. You know, you have to kill that attitude of yeah. So that's basically something that I've really learned.
And are there any things that you might be able to share in that journey where you made some really, big mistakes or small mistakes that you're like, wow, this is really funny? Maybe not confidential, of course. Yeah. That was like, wow, that was a very big mistake I made that maybe had you not made it, you would have been in a different place. Obviously, you learned from it, I'm sure. But any things you can share? Because I think too often on these shows, we share the successes in life, right? But it's also sometimes we learn more from the failures in life. So are there any that come to mind, perhaps, that you feel like these were really turning points in your life that were maybe a mistake, but it turned out to be a good lesson for you for the future?
Yeah. I think there was one event that we're doing, and not that such has happened. We reached at a church. Actually, it was even out of Kitwe. And I think I carried like a novice who wanted to basically learn much more of what I do. And then the event is kind of a one-off event. It's one that you cannot reverse. Yeah, so like I'm called, they say you need to pay so amount for you to film. But then the client, I don't know, never told us anything like that. And then the person who was filming at the start had a different mindset towards the event. So he started working, and I was in the office to say, oh, like, I need to go back there. So just those about 10, 15 minutes were like so much that had an impact back on me. So I think it's one of those. No one, I think, in this journey, we all have like just certain challenges that we tend to have. So I can never say that it's you can never make mistakes or just be able to do certain few things. Because I think just apart from that one, though at least I was able to try and pick up and control things, but that piece also kind of really mattered to the client. So I also had to basically just work on a few things just to try and make the client happy. But it was one thing that really, I didn't feel good about it, because it's very important to like being able to give the best that you can for a client, especially an event like maybe say a wedding, you know, because it's very essential and a sensitive event, which you cannot reverse, and people invest in so much.
Yeah. So it's a bit of a nerdy question, but I think a lot of people are curious about photography in general, whether it's for a passion, hobby, side hustle, or maybe future business. But what are the things that you might be able to advise someone on what to look for? Like, what distinguishes a good photographer from a bad one? What are the nuances or techniques or skills that maybe a layman like me wouldn't understand that goes into it? And obviously, lastly, how much time does it actually take for you to be quote unquote good enough that another professional could say this is good work? I mean, how do you assess that? Because a lot of people think, let me get in because I'll get a cool camera, but they don't understand the work involved.
Yeah. Well, I think first of all, photography really goes so much with creativity. That's one of those, and I think it's just not only about being able to have a camera, but it's important for you to learn a few basic, like you need to learn, like a camera, you need to know how to handle the ISO, the aperture, and the shutter speed. So those are three of the most important things. And then you also have to learn lighting. When we come to lighting, lighting is diverse, like it's a huge and deep topic all by itself. So photography has got corporate to cinematography, like it's a wide range, it just depends. So you need to basically be very skillful. Yeah, and probably the other thing that I could mention is about lenses. So you basically need to know what lens you need to use for what kind of photography and things like that. So if you're able to probably maybe just have the basic of these things, you can basically keep growing. And yeah, like I mentioned, probably maybe the other thing is, gear might be a bit pricey, but I think lenses are the cream de la cream of the camera, because they are the eyes that give you the depth.
Yeah, just on that, that's very interesting. I remember once we had a meeting and you started commenting on the lighting of the particular place. You called it ambience, it was warm, or it was... How does that actually affect a picture? How does that affect a mood of a person? Say if they're filming, like, we're filming right now at a particular time of the day. I hear these things really matter, but in terms of the finished product, what sort of skill sets, or is it, you said creativity, but is it maybe there's a certain intuitiveness that goes with this, or is it something you learn in school? How does it actually work?
Yeah, so lighting speaks so much. Lighting would speak, and lighting would also give like sort of feels or feeling. So yeah, so basically, if like right now, if we were filming, excuse me, if we were filming something and probably maybe it's nighttime, and then we use the color red. So to the audience out there, red would be more of, yes, it's a passionate color, but it would not really meet the criteria of this interview. So colors really do speak a whole lot. So it's very, very important to just understand the lighting, because lighting could maybe make a certain photo happy or sad, or it could be darker. So just basically all these variations differ. But otherwise, I think like that place where we were, the color that we had then was more inviting. Yeah, just like if you look at this color, it's something that is, I could say, maybe kind of creative. Yeah. So yeah, it's kind of just an easy color, but not too yellow, not orange, just somewhere there. Yeah. So basically, like the sun would at times, like, you know, what's got a golden hour. Yeah, and if I look at your face, there's lighting coming up, and just the shimmer, and yeah, it just brings a good texture to the picture. Yeah, so basically, I think some of those things I could speak, but I could say more about color.
You could. And that's a point I was actually trying to bring up, which I hope we bring through in this show. You are really come across as a passionate person in that industry. I've worked with a lot of people because of my line of work, and some can do very good jobs, but it doesn't come through. How important do you think passion is to affecting the creative process and the end product in your space?
It's very important to be very passionate with what you do, because you see, there are times, like each creative, there are always times that not all days are the same. There are times when you wouldn't feel like. So if you're not really passionate about something, then you're not able to do that. And at the end, with whatever that we do, it's not always that probably maybe you could do it for money. But there are times that you just have to give out something. And if you're passionate about it, you need to carry the same energy every time, whether you want it, because that's what success is. Yeah, so that's just these little things that actually bring up the difference. You need to be very, very passionate and dedicated to what you really do. So it's something that I would say, whoever who wants to get into photography or video, you need to be passionate. You need to be passionate, because definitely each, maybe it could be work or creative that you would get in, there are challenges. So if you're not passionate enough, you could just say, you could give up. Yeah, so otherwise it's very, very important to be passionate, yeah, about what you do.
Well, having this, we just talked about it, right? This attitude of good is good enough. Why is it you find that, I don't know, I won't speak generally here, but I find some people, when we do give them a contract or a project, be it in photography or in any other business, they can show up, and sometimes they show up and do a good enough job, but then things start to break down the track. Have you found this to be true with some of the people you're working with when you say you're working in teams? And why is it that happens?
So I think one of the biggest problem is most people want to just concentrate much on money. Yeah, or I could say rewards. So, but at the end of it all is you need to be passionate about what you do. I feel success is about sorting out problems. So if you are just looking at money, you find that if there isn't much, you will not give much. But it's important to give more. Actually, even give more than you are paid for a project, because that energy will affect the business in a good way, and people will tend to, I think, love you or appreciate you, and also they can easily be able to refer to other people, because probably at that point they didn't have much for their challenges, but you're able to just put in so much into. So I think something that we tend to have a problem is probably maybe just wanting to work for money. It's like it's just the main goal, but it's not really is. And the other thing is just being committed. You know, you need to have the energy at all times when you're doing something, not just at some point where you feel, okay, like you've been given a project, you're excited, and then the next thing is you are not giving your all. So, I mean, clients will not really refer, especially these times are really information time, and it's a very competitive age, I must say. Yeah, so, yeah.
It's true. Now, just a few final questions. I really appreciate that feedback. So, 12 years on, you've done some really successful gigs. I got referred to you by a friend in the tribe as well, and that was amazing. It was a good friend of mine, and he talked about your excellence in completion and that going the extra mile, which has really come through since we met each other a year ago. But let's just say, looking back at your younger self, what advice would you give your younger self with what you know now?
I think the first thing that I would give my younger self is to break the comfortable zone. Yeah, like in most cases, I think there are times where there's so much that we can do, and we kind of limit ourselves for just being comfortable in a certain way. And probably the way I push now is more than my younger self. So I would tell my younger self is don't be comfortable. Yeah, so it's best to actually be more aggressive in life towards, we say, work and just learning, sharpening the tools always, and meeting deadlines. So yeah, so I think that's basically something that I would say, because if you're not meeting deadlines with this work, then I mean, people always pass you by. Yeah, it will be expensive, and I mean, poverty might be your good friend. Yeah.
But it's not really your friend.
No.
Yeah, there you have it. So what about with the youth then? What advice do you have for someone maybe who was in your situation in school, or they've discovered that they actually have a passion and a gift or an experience where they want to pursue a career in the creative space? What advice would you give them, just as a final note?
Well, I think they just have to start, and like in terms of starting, they don't really need to maybe have gear to start, but they can always join somebody doing it. And yeah, I think if they can do that, there are so many people actually that are looking for apprentices. Yeah. So if that's the case, let them join and just learn. Sometimes probably someone would be like, oh, I'm too busy. Just tell them, like, I can even carry a bag. So just being humble to just basically learn and just join somebody doing something. Yeah, and from there, they can learn and just start networking, meeting people. They can learn so much, because from that, I think it's more better to start learning while seeing something rather than just wishing to start something.
Or just watching YouTube.
Yeah, YouTube, and that's all you do. So yeah, it's good to be out there, just learning and filming. Yeah.
Wow. Now, brilliant. Thank you very much. So, guys, there you have it. That's Mr. Lombe Lombe from 5Pixel. Really, really great insights on skills, practical advice, and hopefully the last part, which I really got from him, is just get started and get some advice. That was really, really good. So, Mr. Lombe, thank you very much for your time.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
You're most welcome.
Thank you.